where are we going from? So Goto is famous for being, there's a famous slogan, Goto is evil, right? Have you heard it before? No, that's new. Okay, so, well, this talk is not about that. This talk is about making Goto good again, magical. And it's not about programming per se, but it is a very useful tool while you are programming. And to get into that, let's talk a little bit about context switching. Because, well, for me, I was... oh, there you come. Spend some time, yeah. I was working in Bergen as a fresh consultant 4 years ago in Knowit Experience Bergen. And I was put to, all kinds of different projects because I was I could handle anything. So they gave me anything. Problem with that was that a lot of these projects were legacy, built their own custom way, and I never knew what met me when I got a new project, because there was different quality of readmes, if there even was a readme. There was different ways of deploying. There was different way of hosting the code. It was just so many years of legacy projects. I actually recommend doing that as a way of, just picking up a lot of experiencing. After a while, I got very fast into learning, okay, here's a new project. How does it work? How do I fix this thing that I need to fix? And how do I do it with no budget? All right. I got really frustrated after a while because I had to switch context a lot. And these kinds of projects were too small that you sat down and worked on them for a week. It was just some hours a day, and then a new project. And after a while, the bigger projects started coming, and all right, that was fun, because then you had just one project to think about for the whole day. And then suddenly the support calls, and the old one is down. Can you look on it? Oh, well, that's 1 year ago. I worked on this last time. How does it work again? Where is the code? Where is the things? All right, so I got frustrated because I realized I spent a lot of time and effort when switching context, just remembering where is the things. So I built a tool instead of being frustrated, and I called it Goto. So, for instance, now here, let's just go to there. Right. Goto is a terminal tool, and this is the built-in terminal in OS X. I hacked it a little bit. It now displays the current project I'm active in, and I'll come back to that. So let's say you have a site. It's hosted on GitHub, right? So, yeah. For instance, I have this project. This one is just a simple tool that helps me work with .NET projects on OS X, because sometimes you have to interface with MS SQL. So it's just a Docker Compose setup for having a MS SQL server. If it doesn't say you anything, it doesn't matter. This is just a project, okay? And I use this a lot when I do .NET development. So let's say I want to remember not Spotify, but this repo link here. So I just copy the link, and first off, I will create a project. I'll call it MS SQL tool. All right, now we actually are telling Goto that we are now working in this project context. This stupid name. Now I can add a shortcut and call it GitHub and paste the link to the repo. All right. Why do I do this? Because now I can say go to GitHub. And it opens the browser with the correct repository. Why did I call it GitHub? Well, because when I'm thinking of this project and I'm thinking of where the code is, I'm thinking the code is in GitHub. I'm not thinking the code is in GitHub/technocake/ blah, 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 blah. That's up to the computer to think about those terms. I just think in my mind, I think GitHub. And in this context, that means that repository. But if I change the context, for instance, the Goto project, the same shortcut, again in my head, I'm thinking of the repository as GitHub, and the same shortcut name takes me, within this context, to the Goto GitHub project repo. So the URL, I don't have to remember the URLs. I give it a name that I frequently think of and use. And I also have another project, Bergen Game Jam, which is a global event where you create a game in 48 hours. And I'm hosting that too. And we also have a GitHub. All right. So you can open browsers. You can open links in the browser, right? But you can do more. Why did it show? Yeah. Oh, I see. You can do quite a lot of things. What do you need when you switch to a project? I mean, we are developers here because this is a developer conference. You don't have to use it as a developer tool, but it's very useful as a developer tool. So what do we need? We usually open the editor of choice. We usually go to the folder where the code is, and we run some command. And Goto can help doing that. So if I switch to the Goto project, which is the tool itself, actually, the code for the tool itself, I can say go to code. What do you think will happen now? Some further will be open. Yeah. Well, look where I am in the terminal. I'm in the code with the folder. No, folder with the code in my terminal. And if I switch again project to Bergen Game Jam, I can say go to code again. Oh, it says actually that I don't have a code. Sure. Yeah. So let's do Live Score is another project. I have a lot of projects. Go to code. Now I am in a completely different folder in my terminal, and I see these files. The files here are not important. The important thing is that I'm in the right folder for this project right now. So, okay, I'm going to start the task. Okay, what do? I need to do something in the terminal. Okay. Now I'm going to work with Goto again, and I say go to code. Boom, I'm there. Then I can say make test, for instance. Oh, I didn't have that. Yeah. I can do my things here. And this is a terminal way, right? But we also like to work graphically these days. So I can say go to open code. It opens the folder, as you first imagine. All right, let's say that this file here, code of conduct, is very important for some reason. All right, and I'll have this file open here. And I also have it here. If I create a new terminal here, and exit the full screen. Then I can make a new shortcut. I can call it conduct. The name of the shortcut is up to you. You choose it. Then I can actually, in OS X, I can do this. Drag the path of the file into the terminal. Now I added a new shortcut named conduct. If I close this file, close this folder, I can now say go to conduct. And it opens the file. So now, if this was something that I was working a lot with, this document, I don't have to remember where it is. I don't have to remember the full file name. I just have to remember the shortcut name I named it. This is the power here.
Can you list the shortcut?
Oh, excellent question. Yes.
Because for me it's quite usual I just can't remember all the shortcuts that I have.
Yeah. So if you forget the shortcuts, you can use go to list. And in this project, I have a lot of shortcuts, so that's not pedagogical. But if I go to the Aaberg Game Jam project, there's a few less. Then you see the names of the shortcuts you have. And
To add some description? To add some description?
Not currently, but that's a feature I'm working on, actually. What you can do is you can add the verbose. You can see where it points to. That can give you some information, but I mean, you have to be a developer to like this. But we are. And if you want to learn more, I mean, there is a good help text here when you use Goto. The biggest feature that I always use is Sublime Text. Because this is my Goto editor, which I also built Goto with. And if I want to, let's use Goto. Now I'm in the Goto context. So now the shortcuts are for the Goto. I can say go to Sublime. What do you think will happen now? It opens up Sublime Text. But it doesn't open Sublime Text, only it opens Sublime Text in the right folder, in the right project. So now I'm in the Goto folder here, and I can start typing the code already. I don't have to remember where it is on the computer. I don't have to open the solution file. If you prefer VS Code, you can open Goto, the project folder in VS Code. And it has support for some other editors, like Rider, IntelliJ. I did some experiments with Visual Studio. Yeah, as long as you point a shortcut to the solution file, it opens. Yeah. So that's the tool. And you can do some more things, and it has some more features and some more structure. But that's going to be it for now with the tool. And then how is this tool built? Well, let's have a look. First off, it's built with Python as the gluing language. And I choose that because it's platform independent. And it's my favorite language. It's my go-to language. But this is a terminal tool. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with terminal shells, but this shell is C shell. Do you even know what a shell is? I could explain that if not. Let's explain the shell. All right. So the terminal it's only the kind of the window that takes input and output. But the shell is the real power. The shell is the program that actually interprets the input, hands it to your programs on your machine, and gives you the output again. The shell is the thing you are interacting with. The terminal is just something you can type on. So when I say terminal, and when most people say terminal, they actually mean terminal with the shell. Because back in the days you had a terminal machine, a physical like typewriter looking thing that was interacting with a mainline machine. Nowadays we have shells, which are more virtual than physical. So there is different shells, and the most common one in OS X, Linux, Unix is Bash. And this comes default installed on OS X computers. On Windows, you need to install Git Bash, for example, or Linux subsystem for Windows. And you have a Bash environment, which Goto is needed to have to work. But another shell is C shell, which is more modern. And this is now the default in OS X. It used to be Bash, now it is C shell. And there are some differences. It's mostly the same, but for instance, auto-completion. So let's say I start to say git, I start to type partly the name of my shortcut. I can press tab and go to auto-completes this, right? This autocomplete feature is different in Bash and C shell. So for example, in C shell, if I double tap and I have multiple shortcuts that are optional, in C shell you will see them listed out like this. And you can actually, you could select them more visually. And in Bash, it's a little bit different. And those things you don't think about until you build a tool that is supposed to run in different shells. And oh my God, I had to think a lot about this to make it work. So Goto is built with Python, but it is 50-50 Python, 50-50 Bash and C shell code also. So there's a lot of things I have to do in the shell. If you're going to change CD, right? This is the way you swap the folder in Goto, in the terminal, not with Goto. So here I have some files and I have a dist folder, and if I want to go into that, what you usually do in your terminal is that you use cd. All right, and now I'm in this folder. All right. To make Goto do that within the current shell, I had to hack a lot, because that's not something you can do out of the box. So that was a very big problem, actually. It took a long while to solve that. You can imagine how happy I was when I finally made it happen. Because there are some limitations. If you issue a cd command from a program, you actually have a virtual shell within that program that changes the folder, but the shell that you're interacting with does not. So in order to make the shell you're interacting with change the folder, I had to do some hack. But I don't want to go into much detail on that. I can talk for the interested people later about that. And okay, and then I released this. This is now actually a pip package, if you have used pip install before. And after I released it, there was a lot of issues coming in. Because then some people started using it, and many people did not have the same environment on their computers. Wouldn't it be just good if they could all just have the same environment? It works on my machine. Why don't you have your environment like my machine? No, I can't think like that, right? I have to support a multitude of different environments. Different operative systems, Windows, Linux, Unix. The goal was to make it platform independent. So I had to set the requirement that you need bash or C shell in your operative system. Otherwise, this would just explode with, yeah. But what do I do then? When I make new features and I break things, because it happens, you introduce something new, it breaks things. What do I do then to ensure that I release this and I don't break it for all the users? Well, I write tests and I automate them. And how do I test interacting with the shell? Okay, there is actually very little out there for you if you want to do integration tests in your shell. There is one library, I looked it up, it looks okay, but it could not do everything I needed to do. So I built one. I had to build a test tool for testing Goto. And that took a lot of time, but it was actually quite fun. And it ensures me that I now can test Goto in different Python versions, because you don't have the same Python version, of course, not. And for a long time I supported both Python 2 and Python 3, because Python 2 was what people had installed on their, and still to this day Python 2 is installed and it's end of life. It's out there, but it's still in there. But now I just stopped supporting it because there's so much Unicode issues, so much issues. You have to make sure it works. But what I did was that I wrote some tests with my new testing tool, and it first ran in now Python 3.7, and it actually installs Goto. It runs a lot of commands with Goto and sees the output and checks the state, internal states. And I also have some design philosophy about the error messages. So let's say I go to a shortcut that doesn't exist. Ahoy, it says. And I wanted the error messages to be giving some hints to the user what they can do. So it gives this hint, are you sure it exists, this shortcut? You can type this command to see all your shortcuts, right? You had the first immediate question, can you list the shortcuts? Yeah, here's the command for doing that. So one of the tests is there an ahoy in output? Because I don't only test the happy paths, I also test the sad paths, right? I want to test the error paths. Yeah, so this has been quite fun. If you want to install it, it's actually called Magic Goto, not Goto, in pip because Goto was taken. Yeah, it's just pip install Magic Goto. Right, is there any questions? Yep.
Do you have any support to add like custom commands and stuff like that? Like you can add in a keyword for changing NVM versions or something like that?
Yeah, so we built a plugin system. You can add plugins. Currently you have to actually make a pull request to the Goto tool, but I want to make it more easy to customize locally. So I'm working on that, but there is a plugin system and I'm going to make it so that you don't have to patch Goto to use it all. So for instance, the Sublime command is a plugin. Goto Sublime is a plugin. It expects that you have a shortcut named code and uses that path to open Sublime with. And the plugin requires a help text explaining how to use it. It requires the names that you can run this. So if you wanted to make like NVM, you would write NVM here, like this would be your code word for this plugin to activate. So actually I can use Sublime or Sublime full out or Sublime like an option like this. So I have some options there. And then it has an entry point that will be run when you trigger this. And behind the hood, everything is a URI. Every shortcut is pointing to an URI. A file path is a URI. A folder is a URI. URL is a URI in the browser, and so on. We even did a test if you plug in an iPhone and you use you can actually call people with Goto by typing, yeah. It works, but that's not a Goto feature actually, it's just a feature from the operative system that we hack into. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah.
So, by the way, since I saw you using poetry, which, by the way, awesome.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of wondering if you do one of those, like launching VS Code or Sublime or whatever. Do you have it so that it uses the virtual environment that's suitable for a given project, or just open it up?
No, that's just global. So it requires that you have the Sublime command accessible. So I can do it normally, like this. And this plugin calls that command.
Right. Okay.
And that's also how I do it with all the other editors. But if you have a scheme and register, I mean, if the editor has a scheme, For instance, Spotify has a scheme, right? This is not Editor, but this is another application. If you copy the URI from a Spotify playlist or from a song, it has a URI looking like something like this. This is just a URI, and if you pass this into Goto and you open it, it will actually open Spotify, playing the song. Yeah, so that's the default mechanism for opening things. It's using the scheme handlers in your operating system. And then we extend it with some custom commands in the plugins. Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering about if you have considered looking into creating composite states, like pushing and popping different Goto commands that would build upon each other.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a question about a virtual environment with then building up upon that with an ID, and then that's dependent on the virtual environment with some week or something like that.
Yeah, I try to make it simple. And because a lot of the stuff there you can do from your terminal. And if you want to automate a lot of things, you can actually write a script. And you can add Goto statements in the script. And just run the script instead. So it's another tool to the Unix programming environment, right? So you add it with other Unix tools. But if you want to go fancy and write a plugin, I'm open for plugins. Thank you.
Thanks.